Hey, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode of Usagi Podjimbo podcast, the podcast all about the Usagi Yojimbo comic series and my journey through said comic book series. We are back again with another pulse-pounding, thrilling episode, a part 2 for the She Part 2 storyline. If you don't remember what happened in the last issue or podcast, I'll tell you what happened. If you want more detail, go back and listen to that episode of the podcast. What happened was Usagi goes to a particular village. They have gold in the village, and the magistrate wants said gold. So he hires a group of assassins to take care of the problem. And that's where we are in this particular issue. All of the villagers, or some of the villagers, have shown up. Usagi is there. And Nobu, who is a farmer in the village, he actually got beat up by a bunch of ruffians, and that's where we begin this story. They are running towards Nobu, and they're trying to, basically going to go save his life because he didn't die at the hands of She when he met the assassin group for some reason. They just let him go, which was really weird. So once Usagi and the gang, I'll call them the gang, the villagers, actually end up going to save Nobu. They're like, oh my god, I think we got it. Thankfully we got here in time. Everything is okay. Then the next morning, they happen to be like, oh, things are actually looking better. And Usagi says, you've recovered really quickly, Nobu. The three who beat you, they sound like they were more, they were those ones who associated, or accosted Mayashi that one time. And Miyashi's like, yeah, you mean the ones who you ran off, Usagi, And Nobu's like, I didn't ask for your opinion, Ronin. And we see Kimi, who is Mayashi's daughter. She actually has changed her tune from the last issue. She wanted nothing to do with Nobu whatsoever, but she is all happy Nobu is alive, and he's a brave guy who basically survived a beating. She says that she wishes that she could actually be there to see Nobu drive off those ruffians. And we see Usagi say, if Nobu had let you accompany him, you could have saved him from a severe beating, he says, which I think that was Usagi. I'm not for sure. It could have been her father. We don't actually see who was actually talking in that panel because it was actually a very close-up shot of Nobu himself. And Nobu gets angry and gets up, and he's like, well, the three were nothing compared to the four who called themselves She. And everybody's kind of shocked, and they're like, that means death. And Usagi says that he's actually heard about this group, about the band called She. There are 4 assassins apparently, and he's heard about them when he was wandering around and his wanderings, he says, and he's like, they're specialists in their different weapons. One with the sword, the bow, the spear, and the sickle and chain. And Moyashi says, but what do they want with us, actually? And Moyashi's wife ends up chiming in. She's like, don't you see? They're probably after him. He's a fugitive or something. I know he was trouble from the beginning. The first time I saw him, he is trouble. And she's like, you should just run him out. We should just run him out. And Moyashi's like, perhaps you should actually leave. And Usagi's like, no, it's apparent that the magistrate hired them to drive y'all out of Izuma Valley. And Usagi's like, if these thugs continue to harass you, it would throw suspicion on him. And but if freelance assassins were to do his dirty work, and that's where Moyashi's wife cuts in. She's like, nonsense. The magistrate is our friend. He would never do that. You're just a troublemaker. Get out of here. And Moyashi kind of sticks up for Usagi. He's like, but what if he's actually telling the truth? What should we actually do? And Usagi pipes up and says, those four are going to try something. It'll be soon. What I need you to actually do is actually leave the village, and I'll take care of things. And they're like, well, why should we leave the village? I don't think we should leave the village. Nobu pipes up, and he's like, I think you're gonna rob us blind. And Kimi's like, rob us blind? What is he gonna rob us of? We're just poor farmers. And this is where Nobu and Kimi, they end up getting in a really big argument, saying a bunch of things, calling each other names like slut and coward. And Kimi is like, don't you dare talk to me like that, blah, blah, blah. And Usagi pipes up and he's like, fighting like this, stop it. Fighting like this will get us nowhere. Nobu says for Usagi to stay out of it, because bullying will get him nowhere. So don't bully Nobu. Nobody bullies Nobu. And Moyashi ends up saying, no, Usagi is right. We will put it to a vote. The villagers will decide on what action we actually are going to be taking. Meanwhile, we see the magistrate and his brother Juzo talking, and the magistrate is getting very impatient, and he's wondering if these people that were hired are actually capable of what they say they are to do. And they hear a voice off in the background and saying, yeah, we are more capable than what you think, We are she. And the magistrate is very taken back and shocked, and he's like, how did you get past my guards? And they're like, it was very easy. And we see the guards off, and they actually had tied them up and knocked them out. And the magistrate says that they were actually the best swordsmen in town. Yes, I believe you are going to be capable of getting rid of a couple farmers. And Juzo pipes up, and he said, but there is a couple of complications. They've actually hired themselves a protector. And the magistrate's like, oh, no, it's just one protector. No, it's okay. And they're like, yeah, we can take care of that, but it's going to cost you more money. And the magistrate says, whatever money you want, you can have. I have to go take care of and to attend to some official business. I trust Juzo to handle the details for you. And the magistrate ends up going off, and Juzo ends up smiling and laughing and kind of grinning. And he's like, good, he's gone. Now we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. What we're actually here to do. And the assassins are like, yes, this is simple. We're here to kill your brother and take all the gold. As Juzo starts sucking down on the alcohol that he's been drinking this entire time. I feel like Juzo is very much probably shit-faced right now. He is probably off his rocker, drunk at this moment from all the alcohol that he's actually consumed. But that night, it is storming, raining, and we see the group of assassins known as She looking down upon the village. And they're like, it looks deserted. And they're like, I don't think it is. It doesn't look like it. And don't be a fool. They're peasants, and there's a lone ronin. They're poor skilled. How skilled a sword can they actually really afford? And the big bear guy with his kunai and sickle, these guys don't even get names. So I guess I'm going to call him the sickle guy or the bear guy. He's like, let me go down there first. It's been a while since I've actually had a good fight. And the others do agree and tell him, you can go down there. But if you end up killing the guy, we're still going to split the money 4 ways. And we see the bear guy go down, and he's like, oh, farmers, where are you, cowards? Are you in your homes? He starts walking around the village, going into buildings, wondering exactly where has everybody gone. And he actually ends up running into Usagi. Usagi's just standing out there in the middle of the village, holding his umbrella. And the bear guy ends up saying, hey, you Ronin, answer me. Are you deaf? We see him. Don't tell me you're petrified of fear, the bear guy says. And Usagi says, I can hear you just fine. And the bear guy actually throws his sickle and chain at Usagi. We get this really, really cool fight scene of like Usagi dodging the weight of the other end of the sickle. The chain part, I would actually say, the part with the weight on it. Like the bear guy is actually seeing to. I feel like he's trying to test his skill against Usagi because the Shi assassin group, I feel like, very much underestimates Usagi at this point because what kind of swordsman, like they said, could they actually hire, or the villagers could actually hire at this point because they were all poor. And, people don't really work for free. Well, unless you're Usagi and you work for food. But yeah, we get this cool scene. I love this whole scene of them struggling. At one point, he actually throws his chain and wraps his chain around Usagi's hand and sword. And Usagi gets dragged kind of through the mud and gets wrapped actually up in the chain. And it actually looks pretty cool. Like the look of the chain and the kunai looks really cool. But Usagi actually gets out of the chain and actually kills one of the members of Shi. And the other members are actually really shocked and taken back by this. And Usagi is taking the chains off of him. And he says that the guy almost pulled Usagi's arm out of his socket. He was lucky he came in by himself because these guys are very much a formidable opponents, I would have to say. To an extent, they're formidable opponents. But the other three end up going after him. And they're like, "Oh, where is he?" One of them says, "Spread out. We've got to avenge our comrade." And the main guy, which is the sword guy, he says, "Careful, do not underestimate him again." And they all go looking for Usagi in this village. The one who finds Usagi running into a building, which is actually a storehouse, I believe. He's running into a storehouse, is the spear guy. And he goes into this room full of these barrels of, I want to say they're like hay, I think they are. I'm not really sure what they are. But he's like, "You may as well show yourself now, Ronin," he says. "I know you're here." And we see Usagi hiding under basically like a cover or like kind of like almost like a tarp or a blanket. And I love this scene where we see Usagi hiding from this spear guy. And the spear guy is looking for Usagi. He's like, "My partners will be here soon. True, you killed one of us, but you really did us a favor. Now we don't actually have to split the money. Give up now, and everything will go easy on you." And he goes and swings his spear against and cuts Usagi's shirt. And they actually have this really cool fight where they're fighting, and Usagi actually ends up cutting like a pillar to a second story and having all of the things in storage collapse. And as Usagi is doing that, an arrow gets shot right in front of Usagi's face, but he ends up jumping out of a window, which is really cool to see. And the bow woman, she's like, "He's gone into the woods, run after him." And we see the bow woman actually go after Usagi, and she says he could have hidden anywhere in the shadows. And we kind of see this like thing moving within the bushes, and she shoots it. She's like, "Ha, stupid Ronin, I got you," basically, is what she says. She's shocked, and she sees a scarecrow that looks very similar to Usagi with his tongue sticking out, like he's drawn like a swirly eyes and a tongue. And they're like, "Oh, it's a scarecrow. Where'd you go?" And we get this cool scene of Usagi popping up out of the bush and just murdering this poor woman. Well, she's not really a poor woman. She's a very, very bad woman. But I love this scene because it's different than the other ones, because there's like almost like a outline of sorts on the page, and it looks almost like a stamp you would see, like somebody stamped this picture and like put ink on it and stuff. That's what it looks like. It looks very, very different, almost like a negative photo, in a sense, because like there's more black than like detail in this particular panel, which I really do like. I like this panel a lot. Now that Usagi is done with that one, there's one more to go. The main guy, the sword guy, he runs off to see and find him, and we find out that the sword guy is actually taking Kiyomiya hostage, and he's like, "Sorry, Usagi, I just wanted to see you in action." And we see the Kiyomiya screaming. He's like, "Shut up, girl! I don't know." And he's like, "You're a fool, Kiyomiya. You let her go, you assassin." And we see Usagi and the assassin have like a little bit of a standoff. And he's like, "No, she's my bargaining chip. If you have any feelings for her, you'll drop your sword right now." And he's like, "I'm waiting. Or do you want to see her head roll on these streets?" And Usagi has his sword pulled with the rain hitting down on him. It's so cool. Very cool. And we see the sword guy. He's like, "I'll give you just 3 seconds to drop your sword. 1, 2, and then right at 1, Nobu actually jumps out of nowhere, trying to save Kimi from the swordsman. Then, with the helpful assist/distraction from Nobu, Usagi actually jumps in and kills the last remaining member of Shi. Usagi is huffing and puffing because he is very tired. Nobu actually jumps up and says, "Stay back to Kimi." And he's like, "Face me, samurai. Kimi is mine. I'll show her I am not a coward." And Usagi is like, "Oh God, like what do I have to deal with this?" Usagi tells him to put his sword down, boy. Nobu says, "I am not afraid of you. Then you're a fool." And we see Kimi shocked. And she's like, "Nobu? Like, what's going on?" And Usagi's like, "Be afraid of me, boy. Be very afraid." And we see Usagi get right up into Nobu's face. And he's like, "The fire is hot within me from the stench of the blood and sweat. Do not mess with me, boy." We see a very, very different side of Usagi. And very much like Usagi is daring Nobu to be like, "Come on, what now? What are you going to do?" But Nobu just drops down and starts crying, and Usagi leaves at this point. And Nobu goes on about saying how he's never seen so much death before. The look he saw he was almost possessed by a demon. It was horrible. And Kimi says, "I thought he would have killed you. I've never been so scared." And they kind of come together over this weird forced scenario, because I feel like, I take it Usagi is really mad because he basically helped them, and Nobu like turns his back on Usagi at this point. But this weird scenario brings Kimi and Nobu together, and they embrace. Meanwhile, at the magistrate's house, we see the magistrate, and he's like, "It's a good idea to resign the guards for another wing of the house, And he goes to see his brother. He thinks his brother is actually sleeping. And he goes and he stabs his sword into his brother, taking his brother out. Because, the magistrate is very much a greedy man, just like his brother is. And as he's stabbing him, he says, "Don't take this personally. It's just business." And we see a door open up, and he's like, "I understand, brother. I totally understand. In fact, I expected this." And the magistrate has a shocked look on his face, and he's like, "You plotted my assassination. Why would you do this? You tried to kill me," Juzo says, And they have this fight, and the magistrate runs out, tries to get the guards, but Juzo actually ends up killing the magistrate. As he is slicing down the magistrate, cutting him with the killing blow, we see these guards, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on here? Look, it's a murder. They've murdered the magistrate. Oh, no." And they go after him, and they actually, from what I gather, they actually kill Juzo as well. Is from what I gather. And as Usagi is running outside in the rain, this is all happening inside. But Usagi is running to the magistrate's house. He's like, "I gotta find out what's going on one way or another. What's this all about, actually?" And we see a guy running through the village, clacking on these sticks. He's like, news, the magistrate is dead. His brother the killer has been slain. And Usagi basically stops dead in his tracks. And he's like, with the deaths, whatever secrets they've had died with them. And we see Usagi walk off, and he's like, this is the last time I decide to let God decide what road I take. And we meet up with the villagers like a couple weeks later. We find out that everything is actually hunky-dory. We find out that Kimi and Nobu actually end up getting married at one point, and they're kind of glad like everything has gone back to the way things are. And Moyashi and his wife kind of wonder, well, why exactly did the magistrate really want their village? Like, what was so important here that they didn't know? And Moyashi's wife throws a rock into the river, and it lands next to some gold, and that's actually where our story ends. Obviously, this was a very interesting issue. It very much pairs well with the last issue, obviously, because it's part 2. But it's cool. I like part 2 a little bit better than part 1, to say the least. Because it really gets down to nitty gritty. I feel like in this scenario, I wasn't really too blown away with part 1 because it was very much all set up. But once you read both of them together, I think it makes one good cohesive story. Unlike me, who took a break when reading both of these issues. I liked the assassin group. I thought they were really cool. I kind of wish they didn't die, because I kind of would have liked to see them again, possibly. I thought their fights were really cool and very well done. I liked that Usagi actually had a little bit of trouble fighting them and, showed some weakness. So I like that in my heroes to, overcome the obstacles that, they go through. They don't just willy-nilly, don't break a sweat when they fight type of thing. I like seeing Usagi struggle. I liked seeing his tactics that he had in this particular issue when it came to fighting them. I liked it. It was very much he did like guerrilla warfare on them, and they didn't know how to deal with it, which is funny to see. And it was all around a good story. Hopefully things work out for the Izuma village. Things seem to work out for the Izuma village. But yeah, it's a fun second part and whatnot to the story. She isn't one of my favorite stories, but I don't think it's a bad story. It definitely shows a different side to Usagi at points when it comes to the samurai life and how people are interpreting Usagi as a person, because basically they think most ronins are like just terrible people, and Usagi obviously isn't that, but Usagi, I feel like, did sort of get pushed to his breaking point with Nobu in this issue, I have to say, because that darker side to Usagi is basically like, come on, mess with me and see what happens, boy. That was a very interesting side to see, I have to say. But next issue, we are actually going to be talking about 2 stories. We're going to be talking about Lizard's Tale, I believe it's what it's called. We're going to be talking about Battleground or Battlefield Part 1. I got it actually wrong. It's actually Battlefield Part 1. And that's like a 3-part story, which is the Battlefield story. But we're going to get into that, get into some shorter stories in this next couple of episodes, which is going to be fun to take a look at, especially A Lizard's Tale when we get to that, I have to say, because I was reading that one the other day, and it was it was a fun story. But I hope you guys enjoyed this particular issue. Catch you guys on the next episode, and we'll see you guys next time. Stay safe, and make sure to go read some Usagi Yojimbo.